Would changing the voting system from first past the post to PR improve electoral turnout? I don't know. I don't know. And bear in mind, I am someone who wants to change our electoral voting system to PR. Not only just how we elect Westminster, but it should be certainly applied to the Lords, making it, as I said before, like a regional assembly of representatives, um, down to like how we elect our local mayors. We've seen that in a couple of local mayors elections. They do have STV voting, so single transferable vote. Right down to our local councillors. This should be something we should be looking at. Absolutely. And I want to see some form of electoral reform looked at and prioritized by our government. I think it is something we should absolutely be focusing on. Because if you have a look at those local elections, where the national average was 30%, there were some that were I predicted 25%. I thought, because I thought that honestly the turnout would be really low. Luckily, I was wrong, to be honest, because I think we'd have seen probably a lot more reform wins if it had been that low. You did see some in the 26-27. There was one council that was very, very close. Can't remember off the top of my head now which one it was. That they were almost slipping into 25%. They were literally just a couple of percentage points off. But it is something we should be concerned about. It is something we should be worried about. And turnout for elections is always, always very important. Even going back to the referendum all the way back in 2016, always remember, more than people who voted leave, more than people who voted to remain, more people didn't vote in that referendum than actually voted. Which, again, says a lot about our politics, about people's intention to vote, what we should be doing. And there's a couple of things that have been mooted before. Maybe whenever it is a polling day, it's a national holiday. Why not make it a bank holiday? It would probably help improve turnout. It would help improve turnout, I think. But yeah, there's numerous ideas out there. But would changing it to PR fully solve that problem? I will be honest, I don't know. I don't know. Because you look at places like Switzerland, where they are like fully PR and they have referendums like all the time. The Swiss turning out for the referendums, getting lower. No political system is perfect. I think it obviously has a lot to do as well with what is going on in that politics and what is happening in that that country as well. That does play, I think, a large role in it. And I'm sure I'll have someone from Switzerland come and explain me, oh, it's just like referendum fatigue. There's just been so many so recently, which is fine. I would understand the argument if that has been the case, but I don't know. And again, this is coming from someone who wants to see the system changed. But I'm not alone in this, because a cross-party group of MPs has come out and is now calling for the Electoral Commission to hold a formal review of our voting system. I think this is something very, very much needed. Very, very much needed indeed. So before we do go on into this, please remember to click the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Of course, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can well buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this, coming from politics.co.uk. A major group of cross-party MPs has now warned the electoral system is now unrepresentative and politically dangerous, urging the government to back reform amid now deepening disillusion within politics. And again, I would agree. I think we are getting to that point where we are seeing the disillusionment with politics is becoming really bad. It is becoming unrepresentative because people just aren't voting. And it's not just like a small number, it's a good chunk of the population that just aren't voting. And that becomes big problems, big problems. So the All Parliamentary Group, and now for fair elections, has now the largest of its kind, has now reiterated its call for a national commission on electoral reform. Again, this is what we should see. Largely, of course, a group now comprised of Labour politicians. It warns, of course, that the current first past the post system is now ill suited to the increasing volatile and fragmented political landscape. Very, very true. Good points to again bring up. It also comes now as fresh polling shows public confidence in British politics has now plummeted, with 45% people saying that they have now less trust in the political system than over a year ago. According to research by Survation on behalf of the group, only 1 in 4 individuals felt that their trust in politics has improved over that very same period. So, as you can see, it's bad. It's really bad where you are at that stage. And that, of course, starts to affect your politics. And you could be at a situation generally where we get to the next election. Unfortunately, Farage ends up winning because he motivates his people to go out and vote. And because people don't go out and vote for their parties, that's what lets reform win. Just as we saw in these, local elections, maybe we see the Conservative vote collapse even more. Our only hope at that point really is that Lib Dems start to really hoover up those seats. Really hoover up those seats. But the poll also suggests that 52% of the public do back the group's call now for a national commission to review the voting system that Britain uses for general elections, with just 10% opposed. Again, I would want to see this, a proper national review into our voting system. I would love to see that happen. The group now boasts over 150 members, including MPs, more than, of course, even now the official opposition, which again shows you the push, as I've said before, for changing our voting system. We are getting there. We are getting to a tipping point on our voting system. It is coming. We really now need to find that last little thing that will really give it that push. The group, of course, its membership is made up of the 340 MPs, 19 peers, and the Conservative Party, of course, was elected with 121 MPs back at the last general election. The group has described, of course, the local elections now as a complete dress rehearsal for the future chaotic, unrepresentative results, pointing now to the West of England morality, which was won with just a quarter of the votes cast. Just think of that. West of England, a quarter of the people who could vote went out and voted. How is that democratic? Now, of course, you can do is basically turn around. Well, those people should have gone out and voted. And the thing is, that is true. Those people should go out and vote, but it's tough. It's really difficult to sort of say to those people, why didn't you go out and vote? What happened? Most people will just turn around and say, just didn't want to go out and vote. How do you change those people's minds, and how do you get into their head that you need to go out and to see that change, you've got to go out and do something at the ballot box. You can't not vote. Trust me, it's the eternal frustration on this where you get into this type of stuff. Labour MP Alex Sobel, chair now for the Fair Election Group, said that the more volatile the politics gets, the more indefensible our first past the voting system now becomes. When elections can be won now on 25% of the vote or less, it is not just unrepresentative, it is dangerous. There is a tipping point where a party could win a majority in Parliament now on less than 30% in multi-party politics. I am very concerned that we are now entering that era. And we are, I think, very much potentially entering that era where you are seeing turnout based on 30%. What happens then if Farage wins the next election on that? That's not representative of the rest of the country. Why? Because they didn't go out and vote. And at some point, even if there's people like me saying, you should go out and vote, you should go out and vote, you should go out and vote. At what point do we say, right, well, if that is the turnout, that is the result that happened, at some point we've got to turn around and go, okay, guys, that was vastly all on you guys because you didn't go out and vote. I mean, at what point do we get to that? At what point do we just say, look, you guys who don't go out and vote, you're not happy with politics, you're not happy with the way things are happening, why didn't you go and turn out and vote? Because right now we're in a situation that we are in. Farage is destroying our country with his crazy Liz Truss Plus plan. You guys didn't even go out and vote against it, or we are entering that point. We are entering a very dangerous point, I think. We are, of course, the biggest all-party group in Parliament, and the public now offers support call for a national commission now for electoral reform by a margin of 5-1. The government now should listen and act. The Liberal Democrat MP Lisa Smart, also the Vice Chair, said that there are now MPs across the House who believe what the Liberal Democrats have argued for years, that we need now a fairer voting system to make every vote count equally. Most people are very much supportive of the idea of an independent national commission to find a way forward. By setting one up, the government can get a foot in front of the door and start restoring trust in politics. And again, I think this is something that they should do this. They should absolutely do this. Green MP Ellie Cowles, also on the chair on the board, the vice chair said, with our politics now so fragmented and reform on the rise, there is now a very much genuine risk that our voting system could give us now an extreme government on a very small minority of the vote at the next general election. First past the post is now a gamble now with Britain's future. Again, very, very true. I think very, very true. Very, very true on this. But it's what happens now. What can we do now to really get that final push to sort of do it? And it's what's going to be the cause. What's ultimately going to be the cause that does it? You know, honestly, write to your MP today, regardless of whatever party they support. Quote them that information. Tell them about this whole parliamentary group, and say we should be pushing for a national review to find a way forward. Why not? Let the Electoral Commission handle it. They're very good at their jobs. They're very good at what they do. They should be the ones acting and sort of doing that national review. So, let me know what you think to this, because I think we are entering a very, very dangerous era where people aren't going out to vote, where people aren't voting, and it brings bigger and bigger problems. Because then people just get more disillusioned. It's like, well, you didn't go out and vote. So, But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.